Why don't we just start up? Hey, everybody, I'll call the meeting to order. Let's do a pledge. Thank you. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Speaking of justice for all.
Justice for all.
There we go. So I'm about to do a roll call. And I think I see everyone here. If you're not here, speak up, but I see full house in terms of the council. The mayor's also here. I see the city administrator. I actually see the city attorney in person. Welcome, Nick. Is there anyone online from the city? Nope. Okay, so that's our roll call. We got everybody. There's a quick community segment. So there's a 4th of July event that we traditionally do here at City Hall. And Dennis Pavlak, will you just come tell us about it?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You know, I have to say, when I first originally started this, July 4th here, it was an idea because all across, not just Dutchess County, but counties, small towns, villages, cities, even across America, they're getting away from tradition. Whatever your tradition is, we're getting away from it. So it gave me the idea back in 2011, and I never thought it would go 5 years, let alone 13. This year is our 13th year. So I'm enthused about it this year because our 10th year fell during COVID, and our committee wanted to continue, and such as myself, wanted to continue to read this document. Nobody was here, however, but we wanted to make sure it was read through COVID and continue it regardless, reading it. And I want to thank the mayor for his last couple of years of with our committee reading it with us. So let me, I wrote this on my lunch hour today at work. Let me introduce our committee. Myself is the chair. Claire Lou Gould is the vice chair, former mayor here in Beacon. Ann Thomas, Kathy Caparelli, David Rembert is our committee. Our readers this year is John Foreman, and the guy sitting right next to you, Chris, is Dan Armar Blair this year. We went back to the list this year, so if anybody wants to read this document, find me, get a hold of me. I'm very around the area. Everybody knows who I am. I want to say they used to know. I'm more than they do now. We have some new attractions this year. I'm not going to go into depth about it, what the game is, but it's called Catch It If You Can. We have a face painter coming this year, and we have Guess the Amount of Tootsie Rolls in the Jar. It's for the youth, though. You guess it, you guess it, then you get it. We have raffles for adults and prizes for the youth. Now, let me say this as well, because you know, I mentioned it last year, and I'm going to say it again. Everything that we do, raffles, attractions, it's coming out of the committee's pocket. We don't have a budget. So if anybody wants to ante up to help out, offset our costs, it'd be great if you want to do that, help out, and be a part of it, you know, be a part of it. So that's what I wanted to say on that. So like I said, July 4th, it is right here at 11 o'clock. We start on time, not 11:01, 11:02, we start at 11. So that's it for here. I'm hoping to have a larger crowd this year than we've had the last 2 years. It's going to be on the front page of the Beacon Free Press on June 21st edition, so we took the picture here Saturday morning, so it's going to be on the front page. And Chris, I'd like to ask you, the mayor, and whoever else is in charge, if I can get the police sign by the Memorial Park, if we can get that to put on there. We got it previously years, and we had two ladies from Iowa back in 2019 drive by. They were, I guess, in the area visiting family, and they stopped in and they said, "Oh, this is a great thing that you do." All the way across the map, we got two people from Iowa, two ladies from Iowa at our event. So that's the farthest right now that people have come to this event, for this event to come and visit us and visit Beacon and Dutchess County. So we were pleased about that. The lady told me about that when she was here. So that's it. If anybody wants to, like I said, help out monetarily, it'd be great. Just get a hold of me, call me, text me, and go from there, and then hope to see you there, everybody there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Okay, we have public comment. I was going to remind people that public comment's available. This is the first opportunity. You have up to 3 minutes on any topic except a public hearing. We have one public hearing tonight, which is on a one-way street of South Avenue for a temporary basis. If you want to talk about that public hearing, just hold off on that. I will ask very, very politely that people on that particular public hearing try to stick to the topic. And with that, it's wide open for public comment. Dennis, actually, you're first on the list, but I think you're done now. Is that okay?
If I can mention just two quick.
Sure. You're first on the list.
Just two quick comments. While I was walking around Saturday for the citywide yard sale, a lot of people had mentioned to me about what day are the fireworks and how come it hasn't been in the Free Press the last couple of weeks, because people are looking to plan. They want to plan for the event. They don't know whether it's going to be in the city of Beacon. They're going to have them. We're having them so they can either they want to go, or they're planning to go away. They haven't seen anything. They don't know what day it is. I said, I don't know anything myself. I said, I don't know, prior to this, we always had, it was always in the Free Press, or people that didn't have, was online, was able to be online. It was out there, the date, so people can know what day it was, and whatever the case may be, with the rain date included in that. And also, I wanted to say that the city is making resolutions and passing laws regarding to streets and avenues here in the city, but, I feel that the residents are coming in second on that with their concerns, and their are not being addressed. And I'm just wondering, I believe and I feel that the residents are being second with that, and they're not getting what they're, getting what they have complaints, and they're not being addressed. But once again, the city is passing laws for streets and resolutions, and that's what I wanted to just bring out. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your ability to distinguish a community segment from public comments. Thank you. Lori, Dick, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm here today as one of the founders of a local volunteer project to remind you of the Beacon Prison Free Rides Project, and to ask you to help us spread the word in hopes of recruiting new volunteers, and also to tell those who are watching online. Speaking of online, I should talk into the mic, that we are in need of volunteers. The Beacon Prison Free Rides Project, over the course of the last 5 years, has provided just over 2,000 free rides to New Yorkers visiting their loved ones incarcerated in state prisons in the vicinity of Beacon. And that visit day can be a very onerous one for people coming from New York City, waking up before the sun comes up, taking bus, subway, then Metro North. The cost of Metro North, $30 to $40 a person, followed by the cost of an Uber or a taxi, which can be to Greenhaven Prison, for example, $30 to $40 one way. We have made that trip a little less onerous for these hundreds of people visiting their loved ones. And incarcerated New Yorkers are often moved from one prison to another with no regard to where they came from and where their family is. So not only are we serving people coming from New York City, but we've also served people coming from what we consider prison country, upstate, having to make the trip by Amtrak to Metro North and then making that last leg of the journey just a little bit easier. This has proved to be a gratifying experience for our volunteers. I hear over and over again, some volunteers form a bond with a particular rider and look out for their requests and enjoy catching up each time. Other times, and more often, we are just there to give the person space to grieve or to recover from the trauma of the visit. All we ask of our volunteers is committing to at least 2 trips a month, flexible to their schedule, and the agreement to a few ground rules, and also that the person provide us with their complete driving record in advance so that we can assure
15 seconds.
our riders that they will have a safe and a safe drive. We are happy to pair any new driver with one of our seasoned volunteers to make that process easier. prisonridesproject.org is our website. I would love to share these with each of you so that you have the basic information.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
And any way you can spread the word would be appreciated.
Thank you, Lori. Teresa Kraft.
Good evening. I see on tonight's agenda proclamations honoring all sorts of flags, and yet many can't honor the full flag, in full, the flag that's hanging on the wall that helped build this city. The silence I hear is deafening. And later on the agenda, a resolution that will set a precedent in other parts of the city, changing the zoning for a one-off parcel project. Is it the city's responsibility to deal with a developer investing a lot of money into a residential building and turning it into a business venue, even though they haven't taken the necessary steps first? Is this not putting the cart before the horse? Please stop allowing variances for parking requirements, especially in light of the firehouse build-out and the future visitor parking needs. We don't really have all that parking that you say we do. Our community has been watching a planned venue for the past 18 months, bringing countless revisions to their proposal at the table. The only consistency in is their failure to provide a remedy that will protect area residents from noise pollution and trespassing, along with the impact all residents with the major influx of traffic congestion at all hours of the day and night on the already busy Route 9D corridor. Recently, many residents saw the photo taken by the local newspaper posted on social media of the 4 city Beacon mayors sitting around the mayor's table. I'm pretty sure that the previous mayors did not envision the landscape of our community becoming unrecognizable with additional build-outs. If you look back at the past public workshops held while updating every draft of our living comprehensive plan, the historic preservation and the cultural rich fabric of our city was always front and center to honor Beacon's historic district and overlay zones. It was never in the plan to make it a replica of the metropolis of Westchester. I'm not against recent development. I'm against poorly planned development and bland box construction, and that's all we're seeing. So many people went to those meetings. We need more of those public meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else in the public portion, in the in-person portion. Ben, anyone online want to speak in public comments?
We have no attendees online at this current moment.
Okay. We got a public hearing, so let's do that next. So we have a public hearing on a local law for a temporary conversion of South Avenue to one-way street from Main Street heading one-way south to Beacon Street. And so can I get a motion and a second to open that public hearing?
Motion?
Second?
That's Justice and Molly. Nick, you want to tell us a little bit, or Ben, are you going to tell us about it? Somebody.
Yeah, I can take care of that. I'll pull up a little visualizer here, one moment.
Maybe while Ben is pulling that up to show the what, I can explain the why. We did a groundbreaking for the firehouse project last week. We're going to be mobilizing construction in the next week or so, and we're going to be losing parking spaces on the parking lot below. So the idea of making this one-way was to enable us to add 25 parking spaces along South Street to serve St. Andrew's Church and others in that neighborhood.
South Avenue, not South
I'm sorry,
Street.
South Avenue, yes. Thank you,
Correct.
Ben.
Yeah, I wouldn't add much to what Chris said. There's a visual that everyone should be able to see showing the portion of the roadway that will be converted. That's just between Main and Beacon Street. And it does have a sunset provision in the law, and it would allow for parking to be built out on the street to help accommodate for the municipal lot being closed down during construction.
Okay. The public hearing's open. I've got one person on the list, Teresa Kraft.
Nice to see everybody in the room. Thank you. I'm in support of this one-way during the construction of the firehouse, but I hope that you don't plan on doing this as a full term going down the road past the construction. Thank you.
Anyone else want to make a comment on this temporary South Avenue one-way?
Yes, I just want to echo what Teresa Kraft said, that I'm in favor of this as well, for the construction of the firehouse, but not for long-term. Thank you.
And I'm highly appreciative of the public comments staying within the bounds of the purpose of the public hearing. Thank you so much. Anyone else? I don't see anyone else in the in-person arena. Ben, anyone interested in a public comment, comment regarding this public hearing online?
If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a comment, please use the raise hand option at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're joining us by phone, you can press *9. And if you're joining us on YouTube, you will need to join us on Zoom by visiting beaconny.gov. And none of our online attendees have their hands raised at this time, Mayor.
Okay. Any comments by council, or do I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
So that was Molly and Justice, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, let's do reports. Which way do we want to go? Dan, by the way, are you going to wear a costume on the 4th of July?
You'll find out.
It's a dare.
That's a good reason to come.
I know.
I hope you'll all be there, though.
I'll be there.
Okay, so first off, I just want to say thanks to the Beacon Elks Club for a nice Flag Day event on Sunday, and congrats to all the students and the award winners, including our own Chief Sands Frost, who won the Citizen of the Year award. I also wanted to share with everybody that on Wednesday, June 28th, at 7 p.m., we will be hosting at the Rec Center an event called How Do I Electrify? And what this is an event in which we're going to hear from a few partners, experts in this area, who are going to tell us how we can take advantage, the public can take advantage of state and federal incentives to electrify the appliances in their homes and their vehicles. And you know, as I say, like we took a very important step earlier this year by capping the emissions on our buildings starting January 1st, but that's only capping. And so for us to draw down our emissions, we now need to, for those of us who have the ability and who are willing to, start replacing our fossil fuel burning appliances in our lives. And one of the ways to do that is to take advantage of, sometimes for many people, the only way to do that is to take advantage of these state and federal credits. So that's June 28th at 7 p.m. And I just also want to call out that this was a product of our community quarterly. So we had a community quarterly earlier this year about climate issues, and a member of the public presented an idea of doing something like this. And I've been working with her and a couple others on bringing it to life. So I'm really excited for that. And then lastly, I was actually down at the Strawberry Festival yesterday talking to people about electrification, and I just wanted to thank the Sloop Club for another amazing Strawberry Fest, and Joyce for the booth. Thanks.
I saw that booth. How do I electrify? Yes. So I also wanted to thank the Beacon Sloop Club for an amazing amount of strawberry shortcake that I ate, and to the CAC and Faye, our city's climate smart coordinator, for having a front and center booth right next to, the composting that was right in the center of where everyone would throw everything, to promote our citywide composting program, which is just amazing that composting is systematized in the city of Beacon because of the work of those individuals and others. I also am grateful to the volunteers working on this year's Pride events. The Family Pride at the Yard on Hannah Lane is from 1 to 5 on Saturday, and the Queer Dance Party follows at Industrial Arts from 6:30 to 10. Then it's been a busy time in Beacon, so I just wanted to also thank the city schools for hosting an incredible Calico Ball. There's an awesome tradition, and it lifts up the traditions from our families who are from all around the world. So just wanted to thank the superintendent and Brian Archer for the invitation to the Calico Ball. It was inspiring. And that's it for me. If you would like to meet, please email me at wlongno@beaconni.gov. Thanks.
Thanks, Ren. I was out of town this weekend, but a thank you to all of the amazing community events that went on this past weekend. I was sorry to miss them, but looking ahead to next weekend, I will echo what Ren said. There's some really exciting Pride-related events happening, starting on Thursday through Saturday. You can follow Beacon LGBTQ on Instagram for more details and information, or myself, Paloma for Beacon, for that same information. And also, I'm sure Justice will talk more about this, but Monday is the first annual Juneteenth Riverfront Park celebration, which will be, I'm grateful that the government on multiple levels has recognized this as a national holiday, and that Beacon is moving forward with a community event to celebrate this important day. And I will just echo what Lori said about Beacon Prison Rights Program. I know personally many of the drivers for this program, and will attest that it's an incredibly fulfilling form of service for some people who are just trying to visit their loved ones that are in really difficult circumstances. So if you have the time and a safe vehicle, I really encourage you to sign up and to serve our community in this way. Beacon is a prison town. It's sometimes easy to forget that, but it's important that we not neglect or forget these members of our community. Thanks.
Good evening. Nothing specific to report, but I read recently that the city of Poughkeepsie and the city of Beacon now have the right to charge a hotel tax, and I was wondering if we're going to consider actually implementing that tax. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'd like to at least talk about it. But there was legislation that was passed recently in Albany that would allow us. So maybe get back to us on that, because and mostly the hotel tax here in Beacon is from Airbnbs, and I think if it's affecting our city, I think significantly, and I think we should be able to, get some money out of it as well.
Understood. So once the legislation is signed by the governor, we'll then prepare an update to the council explaining the process and how that would be implemented and collected.
Okay.
It does require the adoption of a local law by the city.
Right, right. Yeah, so I hope we'll act on that when we're able to. And I also like to say that I've heard a lot of people asking questions about Airbnb and what their rights are and so on. So I think the program that we've established here in the city, cracking down on illegal ones, is really having an effect, and I think an overall positive effect. So thank you. And that's it.
I have nothing to report.
I echo everyone as talk about all the events that have happened this past weekend and are coming up this coming weekend. I'll add the Poughkeepsie Duchess Pride event that took place on Saturday up in Poughkeepsie, and just the theme of having all these community members coming out and supporting that. I was able to attend Flag Day as well as stop by the Strawberry Festival, fitting in all the things on Sunday as well. So it was just great to see all the ways that we support the community. And I also want to recognize, too, that the state passed the Clean Slate Act this past week in the final hours, which I think is a testament to the work of Councilmember Wake to make sure that we had a resolution to pass it. I can't say for certain that our support of that bill made the difference, but I think it's great. I'm sure it can't hurt, and hopefully does help when you have communities who say to our legislatures as a collective, as leaders in our community, that yes, we support this as well. And for those of you listening, if you have any concerns about the Clean Slate Act, please feel free to reach out to one of us, and we can talk more about what's actually in the legislation. It changed a little bit from what was initially proposed as well. So if you have any concerns or questions about it, we're happy to dig in and learn more alongside you. And lastly, I'll say that I will have office hours Sunday, June 25th from 3 to 5 p.m. in Pole Hill Park, which is the park across the street from where we're meeting right now in City Hall, or in Bank Square if it's too rainy to meet in the park. And I'll pass it to you, Lee.
Thank you. I don't have too much. I actually had an opportunity, myself and John Gunn, to walk through all of the developments that have happened in Beacon and asking the question whether it was done consistent to the comprehensive plan. And as we went through it, we realized not only was everyone was either no more dense than what was in the comprehensive plan, but a number of them were actually less dense than was originally put into the comprehensive plan. The other thing that I had the opportunity to do, and someone mentioned, is to have a session with all 4 mayors of the past 34 years. So that's Clara Lou Gould, Steve Gold, Randy Casal, and myself. This was at the my suggestion, which is we should get them all together as opposed to just talking to one or two. It was actually lovely, and it was really a pleasure to see them. Chris and I had seen Clara Lou recently, and I said it was just a pleasure. She was exactly as she was as mayor, which was always sort of encouraging people to have discussions, not necessarily having a strong view herself, but usually going in the right direction. I thought Steve and Randy were, very welcome to join us, and it was a very pleasant time had by all. I think I in particular, but I think everyone else also noted that one of the strengths of the city of Beacon is our charter, which was put into place not actually when Clara Lou began as mayor. She began as mayor under the old form of government, which was a commissioner form of government, where you elected someone who was in charge of police and fire, and then someone else who was in charge of the budget, and someone else who's in charge of the highways. And the new form of government, which that charter passed, included a full-time professional city administrator. And that form of government, as including our ward system as well as our at-large, I think has served the city well. There have been a total of 4 mayors in 34 years and 4 city administrators in that same period of time. I noted that what I had understood was that the average term of a city manager in Newburgh is 2.5 years.
So a month?
There have been some really short ones. And part of that process is once someone is in, it actually takes 2 steps. It takes a mayor and a council to change an administrator. And I think that has served the city really well. So I just wanted to add those couple of things. I've got 2 proclamations I want to read. I'm going to do the one for Flag Day first. That was done over the weekend, and I'll read parts of both of these. I won't read them all. But whereas in 1916, President Woodrow Wilson issued a proclamation officially establishing June 14th as Flag Day across the nation, and then it was firmly established by an act of Congress in 1949. Obviously, the flag of the United States of America is a symbol of the principles underlying our country, including liberty, full and true equality, and the rule of law. And whereas during this week we're reminded of the history of our country, both of the proud moments as well as those which we must learn from as a nation, and of our ongoing national endeavor to ensure a more perfect union. We remember, too, the sacrifices that so many have made to protect our nation, to defend the rights of all our fellow citizens, and to advance our nation's principles both at home and abroad. So now, therefore, I proclaim June 14th to be Flag Day in the city of Beacon, and encourage residents to reflect on all that it represents. So that's the one. The other one was done earlier at the start of June, and so this is in honor of LGBTQI+ community. And whereas the city of Beacon proudly celebrates all people who fight for equality, inclusivity, and justice in our community, and whereas we recognize that within the LGBTQI+ community, youth, transgender people, and people of color face great risk to adversity, and recognize that all people, regardless of race, color, creed, or sexual orientation, should be able to live openly and freely without risk of harassment, prejudice, or discrimination. And whereas President Bill Clinton in 2000 declared June Gay and Lesbian Pride Month, and then in 2009, President Obama expanded that to include bisexual and transgender pride, and then on June 2nd, 2021 and May 31st, 2022, President Biden further expanded the commemoration to include queer and intersex pride, respectively. Congress has commemorated June as Pride Month, and in that spirit, Beacon will proudly fly the Progress Pride flag at City Hall. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, as mayor, do proclaim the month of June as LGBTQI+ Pride Month, and invite everyone to reflect on ways that we can all live and work together with a commitment to mutual respect and understanding. Thank you. It's fun. I get to do proclamations, so. Okay, on we go. Does the city administrator have any updates?
Yes.
Okay.
Dennis left, but we are announcing tomorrow that we are having fireworks on Sunday, July 2nd at Memorial Park. So we will be putting that out publicly tomorrow. I also just wanted to do a quick look ahead on what's coming up in our meetings, because people have asked. Next Monday, the city is closed in observance of Juneteenth, or Freedom Day. We'll be meeting on the 20th, and we have the senior planner from Dutchess County, Heather Lavarnway, coming with Dylan Tuttle to do a presentation of the county's 2022 housing assessment. And then on the 26th, Monday the 26th, our building inspector, Bruce Flower, will be here to update you on the enforcement of the STR, the short-term rental law. Many of you have asked where we are in that process. Bruce is going to come and we can have a dialogue about where we are. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay. Let's go on to laws and resolutions. So the first one is a resolution appointing Nick Raguseo.
Very good.
All right. I was trying to remember it from the last time. To the position of heavy motor equipment operator. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
So, George and Paloma. All right. Chris, you want to tell us any detail on Nick?
I do. We have an opening for a heavy machine equipment operator. Nick Raguseo has been with us as a motor equipment operator, which is the step below this, since December 2020. He's very adept at using the machinery, and the superintendent of streets would like to promote him to HMEO.
Any comments or questions or discussion by the council? Okay, so let's move this to a vote. So all in favor of appointing Nick Raguseo to the position of heavy motor equipment operator, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that's the first one. The second one is appointing Brian Bacomo to the position of senior wastewater maintenance mechanic. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
So that was, I believe, Ren and Dan.
Yep.
And Ben, Chris, will you tell us about Brian?
Sure. So this position is in the city's wastewater treatment plant. Brian has been in wastewater treatment since 2016. He currently is the operator of the Village of Rhinebeck system, which is a smaller wastewater system than we have. He has a 2A license, and this is an opportunity by him coming to Beacon to move up to a 4A license because we have a larger plant, and to get that license, you need to have experience in the plant. He's very good at the CMMS, which is Computerized Maintenance Management System. Thank you, Molly. And I did write it down this week. And we would like to put him in the position of Senior Wastewater Maintenance Mechanic.
All right. Comments, questions, discussion?
I'll just say thank you for the thoughtfulness behind both of these appointments. We discussed it a little more in workshop last week, but I'm excited to have these people on the team.
Thanks.
So let's move it forward. So all those in favor of appointing Brian Bacamo to the position of Senior Wastewater Maintenance Mechanic, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The next one is a resolution. It's a local law concerning stop signs on DeWint Street and parking restrictions on East Main. Can I get a motion and second, and Ben will describe it for us.
Motion?
Second.
So Molly and Ren. Ben, are you going to tell us this one?
Yep, I'll just do a quick refresher for everyone. We've workshopped this, we've talked about it at a public hearing, and now it's time to bring it to a vote, or at least to discuss it at a vote now. And I will give you a quick refresher on what it involves. There's two aspects to this local law amendment. The first is making the intersection of DeWint Street and South Walnut Street into a four-way intersection rather than a two-way. I've marked out the current stop signs there now and which ones would be added. And secondly, this would be expanding the no parking during any hours along East Main from Mountain Lane to Pocket Road. And we've previously addressed this area before with some no parking restrictions, but this comes at the recommendation of the Traffic Safety Committee to further expand that to accommodate the narrow roadway there. And that's all I have.
Any discussion?
Just a quick point of information. These two changes are in the same local law because they're both making changes to the same local law. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thanks.
So we have one local law that controls all the stop signs and no parking signs in the city, right? Yep. And to be clear, there are no repercussions on either of these beyond the streets upon which they affect. Any other comments? Okay. So all in favor of the stop signs on DeWint and the parking restrictions on East Main, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. The fourth one is also a local law. This is concerning a temporary conversion of South Avenue to a one-way street from Main Street southbound to Beacon Street, and then also to temporarily repeal parking restrictions along South Avenue. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Justice and Wren, I believe. Ben, we just had this in the public hearing. Is there anything you would add to that, or do we have an adequate description?
I have nothing to add at this time, but happy to try and answer any questions if any come up.
Ben, I'm just curious if there's been opportunity yet to get confirmation from our fire chief that they can fit whatever apparatus they need through the street, kind of, and maybe block off some of the parking spots that we thought we might get to make sure that the truck can fit through if needed. If there's parking on both sides.
And I'm happy to answer as best I can. And if Chris has anything else to add, that's fine too. My understanding is that it would just be a matter of how far away from the intersection they would be allowing for parking stalls. Mickey and Chief Lucchese have worked together to kind of figure out where they'll be lining them out. So I wasn't a part of that actual evaluation, but my understanding is that the updated traffic parking stall count, as shown in the memo, reflects the appropriate number of parking, or roughly thereabout, to accommodate the narrowing at certain portions and also the turn radius for the apparatus coming onto South.
So, and just a couple points on that. We originally thought we were going to get 54 spots there, and we substantially reduced that. We'll be marking out the parking stalls once we install the perimeter fence on the firehouse project, and that way we don't lose any space going off the fence. And then before they'll mark them out with a stencil, and then they'll come back and do them, and we'll make sure that the fire truck. The other thing to keep in mind, though, is the fire truck isn't going out of that apparatus bay at this point. The fire trucks are all at Mays Hook and Ladder during the day, and during the night we have 2 at Mays and 1 at the highway garage. Actually, they're probably all at Mays now that it's warmer weather. So again, we're not anticipating a lot of, unless there's an emergency on that street, and we'll leave room for it to get through. But it's not having to turn out of the apparatus bay.
If we vote on the law and vote to approve it, is it going to go into effect immediately, at least the one-way nature on South Avenue, or what's the timing around that?
What we would do is we need to make sure all the signs in. I think as of Friday, all but one were in. When I have all the signs in, we'll unveil them and probably put up signage, and then have a police officer, at least the first day, just letting people know that that's changed. We've also asked Highway Department to do flyers at all the houses along there. So,
Thank you.
Yeah. I think it'd probably be later this week that we actually draw that line, because we still need to get the stalls in. I don't want to close the parking lot and shift everything without having those laid out.
So I will note in the public hearing, there were comments about wanting to make sure that this was a temporary change. Obviously, that's the nature of the law. I will note in the input that I provided to Ben and the Traffic Safety Committee was that they take a comprehensive look not only at South Avenue but also at Commerce Street and also Cliff. Cliff Street is one-way heading southbound away from Main Street, and Commerce Street is one-way heading westbound from Cliff Street. And my suggestion was, given the pattern that had been created for the rest of Main Street, which were one-ways in and out, that South Avenue was exempted largely because it used to be Route 9D, and that if they're going to look at this, they should consider that traffic pattern. And it may well be that it is appropriate to maintain one-way southbound on South Avenue. So without having a clear opinion, I've asked them to take a look at that. And that's all I got. Not hearing any other discussion, so all in favor of adopting a temporary one-way on South Avenue from Main Street southbound to Beacon Street, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. So the next one is a resolution accepting a utility easement for 12 Highland Place. Can I get a motion and a second for that?
Motion.
So that's Molly
Second.
and George. And Nick, will you provide the details for the public on this?
Thank you, Mayor. So the planning board approved a 4-lot subdivision on the property at the corner of Grove Street and Highland Avenue. As part of one of the conditions of the approval of the subdivision was a requirement that stormwater drainage be installed and connected to the city's stormwater infrastructure. There is a portion of that piping that will be located on Lot 1, which is the lot at the corner of Highland and Grove, for about 75 feet. So the city is accepting an easement that will give the city the right to have its infrastructure located on this Lot 1, including a catch basin. And once it's installed and inspected by the city's engineer, the city will then, council will then be asked to accept the dedication of that stormwater piping. So the first step is to accept the easement that allows the pipe on behalf of the city to be located on the private property, Lot 1. And today we're at the first step.
Okay,
And thank you for providing the map you provided over email, because I had question. I know they have other easements that are on the corner of Highland Place and Grove, but this seems like a new easement that runs through more the middle of the subdivision based on the map you provided. So that was useful to understand that this is not the current easements, this is an additional easement, probably because they split it into 4 lots.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, so all those in favor of accepting utility easement for 12 Highland Place, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. The 6th item on the agenda is a resolution. This is for referring a local law to rezone 6 Commerce Place to the City of Beacon Planning Board and to the Dutchess County Planning Board for their consideration and recommendation. So can I get a motion and a second on that?
Motion?
Second.
So it sounds like Molly and Ren. Nick, you want to tell us about this?
Thank you, Mayor. So the City Council received a request from a property owner at 6 Commerce Street requesting their property be rezoned from the zone it's currently in, the R1-7.5, to the CMS zone. At the last workshop meeting, the City Council heard from the property owner as well as the city planner, reviewed the city planner's memo as well as the written request of the property owner. The City Council also reviewed the zoning map and observed the current location that this is the only lot on that side of Commerce Street that is in the R1-7.5, and the city planner explained the rationale for moving it to the CMS. And we also spoke about it solely within the discretion of the City Council if they felt that was warranted. The City Council at that time decided to at least move the process along, not schedule a public hearing, but get the input from the County Planning Board and the City Planning Board on this proposal. So our office prepared a draft local law, and the resolution before you tonight does not schedule a public hearing, but rather request that the local law be referred to the Planning Board, City and County, for them to provide a report and recommendation back for further consideration and discussion by the Council.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. This type of request would normally come through as a use variance at the zoning board, wouldn't it? But why wouldn't the applicant be going to the zoning board asking for a use variance?
They would not be able to get a use variance because they could not satisfy the New York State legal criteria, because they'd have to show they could not get an economic return from the existing use of the property, which is residential, which they had been able to do so. So the only way to change the use of the property is to, one, conform with what's allowed on existing zoning, or ask for it to be rezoned to a different zoning district.
Mm-hmm.
Another one would be to change the text of the existing zoning to allow commercial uses. That would have far wider ramifications than moving it into a zoning district in which it is adjacent to.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. That was a question I had as well. And I know I asked this question in workshop last week about how and why this is not considered spot zoning, and you provided an answer. But I guess I am still, this doesn't necessarily change my opinion of sending this along to the planning board for further review, but I just want to voice that I'm still have sort of some dubious understanding of why we are singling out this particular property. There are other sort of oddly shaped zoning lines along the CMS outside of this particular one, and it just is, I'm still sort of fundamentally confounded by the sort of ethics behind if we are reconsidering our commercial zoning, should we not be reconsidering our commercial zoning overall versus responding to this one particular request?
No.
I don't know if there's even a question in there, but wanted to voice that.
I think it goes to the zoning process. The individual could have come out at the time this was being rezoned or zoned into the CMS district and made the same comment that was made tonight. So there's always that opportunity for a property owner to comment on zoning. Spot zoning would be more if it's in a different area and it's not contiguous or adjacent to the existing zone that you're trying to move it into. This council also has the right to look at other parcels. It's your zoning district. You have a right to accept this, reject this, modify it, improve, expand it, the scope of what you're doing. So you have that ability to look if you think there are other lines that need to be adjusted. But a property owner has the right to ask for their zoning. You don't have to advance it. What we've agreed to do at this point is just hear it.
Right.
Any other comments? Okay. So all in favor of referring it to the county and city planning boards for report and recommendations, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No. I don't believe we should be doing zoning requests on demand.
Okay. Thank you very much. So the next one is a resolution to set a public hearing for the 2024 to 2028 capital program. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
So that was
Whoa.
Dan and Paloma.
We're really excited about the calendar.
Jeopardy buzzards.
Buzzards.
And so this is for a public hearing. Nick, you want to just give us the details?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
So the City of Beacon City Charter, Section 5.04, as part of the section on the fiscal policies, requires that the mayor prepare and present a 5-year capital plan by May 31st of every year. Through the city administrator, the city's finance director, that capital plan was prepared. It was presented and just by May 31st and discussed at least at 2 meetings with the council. The city charter requires then that once it's being prepared and discussed at the council, the city council then schedule a public hearing so that the public has an opportunity, and then that it be voted on by the city council by no later than July 31st. So having received the proposed capital plan to discuss it, you're on to the next step of scheduling a public hearing, which will be done in accordance with the requirements of the charter.
Any comments?
Thanks, Susan.
So I will note that I frequently request a 5-year capital plan on council over the years. They have been more or less 5-year plans. Some years they were less of a 5-year plan and more of a 1. This one I look forward to because it is a full 5-year plan and I'm respectful. I'm also pretty patient. It's actually hard work to think through what funding that's used to pay for long-term capital programs in terms of bonding is rolling off, what sort of room you might have in terms of paying principal and interest, and then what you want to schedule. It's also harder if you try to do the ones that we might get grants for. It is not a straightforward process, and I am respectful that and grateful that we've managed to do a pretty good one this year, and it's actually looking at 5 years. So those are my only comments. So hearing no other comments, all in favor of setting a public hearing for the 2024-28 capital plan, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so I'm going to need a motion, I know this is going to be hard for you all, and a second, on the minutes of May 22nd.
Motion.
Molly, don't all rush.
Second.
Paloma.
It's like, what did we miss?
Okay. On those minutes of May 22nd, do I hear any comments, questions, uncertainties, corrections, additions, deletions, exclamations, or other changes?
There, in the minutes, we had a public hearing regarding stop signs and parking restrictions, I think for DeWitt and East Main, that we just passed. And the second part of that says motion to pass the resolution. I think that's probably motion to close the public hearing, as we didn't actually pass it until tonight.
Very good.
Is that an acceptable change to everyone without an amendment? Okay.
Thank you for adding this just for me, I really appreciate it. It's a nice little.
Yeah, we're going to get a scoreboard.
This exercise is, sorry. This exercise is required by state law, by the public meetings law, that we always accept our minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a longer discussion, but yes, the city is required to have minutes.
I have no other adjustments.
Okay, with that one change, with respect to the public hearing and the adoption as opposed to the closing of the public hearing, all in favor of approving the minutes of May 22nd, say yes, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So this is the second opportunity for public comment. I see no one in the physical presence of the council. who can make a public comment who didn't make one at the first. Is there anyone online, Ben, to offer a public comment?
No, there's not.
Okay. So at this stage, I will look for a motion to call an executive session to discuss personnel, legal, and contracts, and then to come out of executive session and adjourn.
Motion to go into executive session to discuss personal, legal, and contracts, and just go straight into adjournment afterwards and discuss no further business, public business.
That's a motion.
Second.
So I have Molly and Paloma, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you all for coming, and we'll go in executive session. Thank you, Teresa.
Recording.